Hello, Sandra here. So it's the 1st of February. It's 6 weeks after the winter solstice. I think we're starting to actually believe that spring might be on the way. Our ancestors would have celebrated today as the festival of Imbolc. Some of us today celebrate it as the Feast of St. Bride. Whatever you call it, it's a special time, and it's the time when really we begin to welcome back all the life of spring and all the light into the world that spring brings. And I've got a wee story for you to celebrate, just as my little gift to you. So I'm going to read it. It's the story of Angus and Breda, and Breda or Bride or Brigid is another name for the Celtic goddess of spring. So this is the story of how they defeated winter together. So the story of Breda and Angus. All the long winter, the Queen of Winter, Breda, kept captive a beautiful young princess called Breda. She was jealous of Breda's beauty and gave her ragged clothing to wear, and put her to work among the servants of her mountain castle, where the girl had to perform the meanest tasks. Breda scolded her constantly, finding fault with everything she did, and Breda's life was made very wretched. One day, Breda gave Breda a brown fleece and said, "You must wash this fleece in the running stream until it is pure white." Breda took the fleece and went outside the castle and began to wash it in a pool below a waterfall. All day she laboured at the work, but to no purpose. She found it impossible to wash the brown colour out of the wool. When evening came on, Breda scolded the girl and said, "You're a useless hussy. The fleece is as brown as when I gave it to you." Said Breda, "All day long I've washed it in the pool below the waterfall of the Red Rock." "Tomorrow you shall wash it again," Breda said, "and if you do not wash it white, you will go on washing on the next day and on every day after that. Now be gone and do as I bid you." It was a sorrowful time for Breda. Day after day she washed the fleece, and it seemed to her that if she went on washing until the world came to an end, the brown wool would never become white. One morning, as she went on with her washing, a grey-bearded old man came near. He took pity on the girl, who wept bitter tears over her work, and spoke to her, saying, "Who are you? Why do you sorrow?" Said the girl, "My name is Breda. I am the captive of Queen Breda, and she has ordered me to wash this brown fleece until it is white. Alas, it cannot be done." "I am sorry for you," the old man said. "Who are you, and whence come you?" asked Breda. "I am the Holly King," the old man replied. "Give me the fleece, and I shall make it white for you." Breda gave the Holly King the brown fleece, and when he had shaken it 3 times, it turned white as snow. The heart of Breda was immediately filled with joy, and she exclaimed, "Dear Holly King, you are very kind. You have saved me much labour and taken away my sorrow." The Holly King handed back the fleece to Breda with one hand, and she took it. Then he said, "Take also what I hold in my other hand." As he spoke, he gave her a bunch of pure white snowdrops. The eyes of Breda sparkled with joy to behold them. The Holly King said, "If Breda scolds you, give her these flowers, and if she asks where you found them, tell her that they came from the green rustling fir woods. Tell her also that the cress is springing up on the banks of streams, and that the new grass has begun to shoot up in the fields." Having spoken thus, the Holly King bade Breda farewell and turned away. Breda returned to the mountain castle and laid the white fleece at Breda's feet. But the old queen scarcely looked at it. Her gaze was fixed on the snowdrops that Breda carried. "Where did you find those flowers?" Breda asked with sudden anger. Breda said, "The snowdrops are now growing in the green rustling firwoods. The cress is springing up upon the banks of streams, and the new grass is beginning to shoot up in the fields." "Evil are the tidings you bring me," Breda cried. "Begone from my sight." Breda turned away, but not in sorrow. A new joy had entered her heart, for she knew that the wild winter season was going past, and that the reign of Queen Breda would soon come to an end. Then Breda summoned her 8 hag servants and spoke to them, saying, "Ride to the north and ride to the south, ride to the east and ride to the west, and I will ride forth also. Smite the world with frost and tempest, so that no flower may bloom and no grass blade survive. I'm waging war against all growth." When she had spoken thus, the 8 hags mounted on the backs of shaggy goats and rode forth to do her bidding. Breda went forth also, grasping in her right hand her black magic hammer. On the night of that very day, a great tempest lashed the ocean to fury and brought terror to every corner of the land. Now the reason why Breda kept Breda a prisoner was because her fairest and dearest son, whose name was Angus, the ever-young, had fallen in love with her. He was called the ever-young because age never came near him, and all winter long he lived on the green isle of the west, which is also called the Land of Youth. Angus first beheld Breda in a dream, and when he awoke, he spoke to the king of the Green Isle, saying, "Last night I dreamed a dream and saw a beautiful woman whom I love. Tears fell from her eyes, and I spoke to an old man who stood near her and said, 'Why does the maiden weep?' The old man said, 'She weeps because she is kept captive by Breda, who treats her with great cruelty.' Angus said, 'Gladly would I set her free.' Then I awoke. Tell me, O king, who is this maiden, and where shall I find her?" The king of the Green Isle told Angus, "The woman you saw is Breda, and in the days when you will be king of summer, she will be your queen. Of this your mother, Queen Breda, has full knowledge, and it is her wish to keep you away from Breda, so that her own reign may be prolonged. Tarry here, O Angus, until the flowers begin to bloom and the grass begins to grow, and then you shall set free the beautiful maiden Breda." Said Angus, "Gladly would I go forth at once to search for her. The wolf month, February, is now coming." The king said, "Uncertain is the temper of the wolf." Angus said, "I shall cast a spell on the sea and a spell on the land, and borrow for February 3 days from August." He did as he said he would do. He borrowed 3 days from August, and the ocean slumbered peacefully, while the sun shone brightly over mountain and glen. Then Angus mounted his magnificent chestnut steed and rode eastwards to Scotland, over the Isles and over the Minch, and he reached the Grampians. Dawn was breaking. He was clad in raiment of shining gold, and from his shoulders hung a robe of crimson, which the wind uplifted and spread out in gleaming splendour athwart the sky. An aged bard looked eastward, and when he beheld the fair Angus, he lifted up his harp and sang a song of welcome, and the birds of the forest sang with him. And this is what he sang. "Angus has come, the young, the fair, the hazel-eyed god with golden hair, the god who to the world does bring this morn the promise of spring, who moves the birds to song ere yet has awakened the violet or the soft primrose. On the steep white buds are laid in lidded sleep, and white snows wrap the hills serene, where grow the larches vivid green. Through the brown woods and bare, all hail Angus, and may your will prevail. He comes, he goes, and far and wide he searches for his wondrous bride. Up and down the land went Angus, but he could not find Breda anywhere. The fair Breda beheld him in a dream, however, and knew that he longed to find her. When she awoke, she shed tears of joy, and on the place where her tears fell, there sprang up violets, and they were blue as her beautiful eyes. Breda was angry when she came to know that Angus was searching for Breda, and on his third evening in Scotland she raised a great tempest, which drove him back to the Green Isle. But he returned again, and at length he discovered the castle in which Breda was kept a prisoner. Then came a day when Angus met Breda in a forest near the castle. The violets were blooming, and soft yellow primroses opened their eyes in wonder to gaze on Breda and Angus. When they spoke to one another, the birds raised their sweet voices in song, and the sun shone fair and bright. Angus said, "Beautiful woman, I beheld you in a dream, weeping tears of sorrow." Breda said, "Beautiful prince, I beheld you in a dream, riding over bens and through glens with purpose and power." Angus said, "I've come to take you from this place, as Queen Breda has kept you all winter long." In captivity, as she knows, I need you to fulfill my purpose. Breda said, "This is a day of great joy, and it will be a day of great joy to all the living world ever after this." That is why the first day of spring, the day on which Breda and Angus met, on the 1st of February, is called the Feast of Breda, or Bride, or Brigid. A fair company of fairies hailed Breda as queen of people and bade welcome to Angus. Then the fairy queen waved her wand, and Breda was transformed. As swiftly as the bright sun springs out from behind the dark cloud, shedding beauty all round, so swiftly did Breda appear in new splendour. Instead of ragged clothing, she wore a white robe adorned with spangles of shining silver. Over her heart gleamed a star like crystal, pure as her thoughts and bright as the joy that Angus brought her. This gem is called the guiding star of Breda. Her shining brown hair, which hung down her back in gleaming curls, was decked with fair spring flowers, snowdrops and daisies, and primroses and violets. Blue were her eyes, and her face had the redness and whiteness of the wild rose of peerless beauty and tender grace. In her right hand she carried a wand entwined with golden cornstalks, and in her left a golden horn, which is called the Horn of Plenty. The linnet was the first forest bird that hailed Breda in her wonder, and the fairy queen said, "Ever after this you shall be called the Bird of Breda." On the seashore, the first bird to sing its joy was the oyster catcher, and the fairy queen said, "Ever after this you shall be called the Page of Breda." Then the fairy queen joined together the queen and king of summer in sacred union, and led Breda and Angus to her green-rooted underground palace in the midst of the forest to celebrate their marriage. As they went forward, they came to a river which was covered in ice. Breda put her fingers on the ice, and the ice hag shrieked and fled. A great feast was held in the palace of the fairy queen, and it was the marriage feast of Breda, for Angus and she were wed. The fairies danced and sang with joy, and all the world was moved to dance and sing with them, for they felt the stirring of spring and the banishment of the wicked reign of Breda, Queen of Winter. That's for you, folks. The Queen of Winter hasn't quite left here because it's hailstoning on me now. But happy Imbolc and welcome to the spring.